What does a $1,000 budget computer get you nowadays? In this video, I'll be showing you step by step on how to assemble this computer, where to get the parts, how to install Windows, and how this computer performs on very high demand games. Grab your favorite snacks and beverage because you're about to become a pro computer builder. We're gonna start with this bundle here. I got it from Micro Center at a price of $270. This is the ASUS motherboard microATX, 16 gigs of RAM, and then the Ryzen AMD 9600X. I think that even if you find these parts at another store, these prices, you cannot even beat them. I'm not, just letting you know, I'm not being sponsored or endorsed by them. I know it's hard to get to a Micro Center, but it's totally worth it to get these components for this price. So we're gonna unpack the motherboard here. So it has a Wi-Fi antenna. I'm gonna put it here on the side for now. Let's unpack everything and let's get it out of the box. Also, behind the box, you can find the I/O shield. This is gonna go on the back of the case and I will show you how to install it. A SATA cable in case that you want to install a SSD or regular hard drive. The screws for the M.2. And then the manual. People do not use it, but trust me, this is gonna be amazing because this is gonna show you everything about the motherboard, about BIOS, and how the RAM is configured. Okay, so let's get the motherboard out of the plastic. Let's release this latch over here. This is where you're gonna be pressing. So just push it down and then move it to the right. And now you can remove this plastic from here. And then we're gonna install the CPU in the motherboard. This is again the 9600X CPU. And installing the CPU is so simple. I will show you this little trick that it's gonna give you an easy time when installing the CPU. So here in the CPU, there's an arrow here. You're gonna match that in the motherboard. And then you close the little window here. And then you press it down slowly and then lock it. Let me show you how you can start using the manual. It says system memory. You can actually go to that page 111. So we're gonna go to that page. And right here, that's so easy how you can actually use a manual to find out how to install the RAM and also the CPU over here on the left. It says that if you're gonna be using just one stick of RAM, which is gonna be the case, right? We're gonna be installing that on the second slot from left to right. I know it looks confusing in the manual here, but as you can see, it's actually pointing to that second slot from left to right. So that means that we're gonna press this one over here. We're gonna press it down, right? And then we're gonna be installing that over here. Again, guys, so simple. Anyone can build their own computer. It's not rocket science. We're gonna be installing the RAM. It only goes one way. So the shorter size goes here and the longer side goes here. This is the shorter side and then longer side. It's gonna go like this. And then make sure that you do not press too hard. The way that I do, I just press on both sides. And then you're gonna hear the click. And that technically is installed. And now we're gonna be installing the M.2. This is a Hynix Platinum P41 SSD, and this is a 1 terabyte. We got it for $80. And again, this is gonna go here on the M.2 slot. And right now we actually have to install the screw over here that came in the motherboard, and I will show you in a second how to do it. But for now, let's put it here temporarily. Alrighty, so it's gonna go in the last one here, as you can see. So we're gonna go back into the motherboard bots and have that installed. And this is the screw that we actually need. So we need this screw. This is where it's gonna be, where the M.2 is gonna sit on, right? And then the screw to lock it. And like I said before, this is gonna be on the last hole over here. I know it's gonna difficult to see, but essentially you're gonna lock it here. And then we're gonna install the SSD again over here. Let's push it down, and this is gonna align with the screw that we actually insert in here. As you can see, some motherboards have a shield to protect the M.2 as a heatsink. That also helps to cool down the M.2, but this one doesn't have that. And let's install the screw. And that's it. We're done with the motherboard piece. Again, RAM in the second slot if you have one stick. Every motherboard is a little bit different, but this one goes here because we only have one stick of RAM. CPU already locked, and then the M.2 over here. So this is how it looks. So we're gonna put it on the side for now. And then for the case, we got the Montech XR. This case was just $65. This is an amazing price, especially for coming with 3 fans pre-installed, and it can fit any size motherboard except for those ATX, but ATX, regular ATX, micro, and then even ITX can fit in this case. So let's disassemble some of the parts. Technically, it's gonna be just removing the front panel here. So let's be careful by removing the tape. And pressing on this latch over here on the side. Just make sure that you put everything on a safe place. And it has some tapes very sticky on the side. I'm gonna just remove that as well. It's very stocking here. Alrighty, so we got that. I don't want to remove the, put it to the side. Let's also remove the screws on the back here. A little bit tight. And let's remove the back panel. Now we're gonna turn it around because they actually put a lot of their screws that are gonna go with the motherboard and with the water cooler as well. I mean, not the water cooler, but sometimes they come with extra screws for the fans and some zip ties and velcros that we can use for cleaning and putting everything together very nicely for the cables. So we're going to be using this motherboard screws. We're going to put that on the side. They label everything. So as you can see here, this is for the fans if we're installing extra fans. Ooh, a cleaning cloth in here. And screws for the hard drives, zip ties. This is enough for us to do a very nice job. And the next step will be installing the motherboard. And before we do that, we're going to install the I/O shield. This is what I said before, that I was going to show you how to install it. So let's get it out of the wrapping paper. This is going to go on the rear of the case. So technically it's going to go like this. So let me show you how you can do it. So it's going to pop like that. So you can hear. And that's all. That's very simple. Okay, so now we're about to install the motherboard, and technically it's very straightforward. Essentially, you're gonna tilt it a little bit so it actually aligns with the holes here and with the screws of the holes where we're gonna tie the screws here with the motherboard. Righty, so let's flush it in inside the IO shield. So make sure it actually aligns. Let me show you also how it looks on the side here. So that's going to align with each of the components here. I think the only pins that I actually bent it inside was the one for the mouse and keyboard. This is I believe it was a PS2 connection. So that's no longer used in many computers, but everything flushes in once we put the motherboard with the screws. So right now, the IO shield, it's in place properly. And then the screws that I mentioned that came with the case, that's what we're gonna be using now. These are the screws that we're gonna be using. The screwdriver. As you can see, this is not complicated at all. So we already got the CPU, motherboard. The next step will be putting the water cooler. And as you can see over here, there are two fans already pre-installed. We're gonna use the top portion over here to install the water cooler. Alrighty, so the next component, the water cooler, which is a MAG MSI CORELIQUID R13240. I know, very mouthful here, but this is a 240 millimeter radiator with the two fans and the pump. So let me show you how to open it and install it inside of the case. And yeah, I forgot about the price. The price was $75. Very inexpensive compared to other water coolers. And we actually bought this at Micro Center as well. We have the pump. This is great because they included some thermal paste, the radiator, and this is amazing. It comes already pre-installed. I don't have to do anything with installing the fans. So let's get it out of the box. And I'm telling you, they're saving me a lot of time because putting the fans on the radiator, it's not difficult. It's just like a lot of screws to put in. So that saves a lot of time. And now, the most difficult part out of every computer build is to know exactly which plate functions for the motherboard. Essentially, we're gonna replace this existing one with this one over here. Very straightforward, just like I said, unscrew this four and then slide it on the side. But let's do it right now, how that would look like. Right, so we remove one, and then it's gonna slide like this on the side over here. Let's pull the screw. And the one at the bottom over here. So it's gonna look like this, very straightforward. The same thing that I did on the side over here, you're gonna do it on the right side as well. Alrighty, so we got the case here back on the table. We're about to remove the plate off of the motherboard. That way we can install the water cooler. And it's very straightforward. Let me show you. Let's zoom in here. So essentially we're gonna remove the four screws over here and leave the back of it, so that way we can install and screw the water cooler pump. And that's it, very simple. So now let me show you how to install the water cooler pump. Let me show you how to put it inside of the case. So you put it on the side here for now, and this is how the water cooler it's gonna be facing. I know you might ask why the water cooler looks with the MSI logo aligned. Well, what I did, I actually removed this plate. So be careful not to break it. It has some clips inside in this direction. That way, once we're looking at the water cooler, it looks properly and that is facing in our direction. Before we do that, we remove this plastic here, this cover, and we're gonna put the thermal paste on top on the CPU, and we're gonna just use a very small amount. Do not use more than this, guys, trust me. And I will tell you in a second why. So we just put a very small amount. And I say not to put more than this, and that's because once we put in the pump, that's gonna spread out around the CPU. So we wanna make sure that the thermal paste doesn't go around inside of the CPU on this, like, I'll say little dots, or even outside of the motherboard, because technically that can break the motherboard as well. And also if we add way too much thermal paste, that can also overheat over the time. I had many clients in the past where they put way too much thermal paste and then the computer was overheating. So here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna line the 4 screws in those 4 holes that where we had the plate before. So we're gonna align it here and push it down a little bit, and then we're gonna just screw over here, not too tight for now. Yes, that's how you install the pump for the water cooler. We're about to install the radiator on the top over here. Very simple, and let me show you how to do that. Here's one thing. So essentially, a lot of the water coolers, they come with their own set of the screws to go on the top. But for some reason, this water cooler was missing a lot of the screws. For some reason, I'm not sure why. But we're gonna use some hard drives screws, which actually can work over here. I know they're a little bit bigger, but we're gonna just put them in place for now like this. A line in the middle, so I think that's good enough. So it should look something like this. Alrighty, so we have the water cooler installed. So we're gonna move these cables to the back. The RGB fan, sorry, not the RGB fan, but the RGB cable. We're gonna route it here just to make our life a little bit more simple. Pump has to go on the top over here. And I know the water cooler is on the way. And now we're gonna connect the pump cable. This is gonna go inside of the CPU fan header. And there is another fan header that says CPU OPT. We're gonna be connecting the fan radiators into that. Sometimes, depending on the motherboard, you're gonna have a motherboard that has a dedicated pins for the radiator, but this one doesn't have that. So we're gonna go ahead and connect this one over here where it says CPU fan. So on the top header, that's CPU fan, and then CPU OPT, that's the second one over there. Let's connect the pump into the CPU fan and then the radiator on the second one. This one on the top, I know it's kind of difficult to see, and that's because I put the radiator first, but you can always loose the screws and then just go back and install it. All right, so that's connected. Like I said before, the radiator fan connector for the fans, this two over here, it's gonna go in the CPU OPT. And that's how it looks. So we did amazing here. And now the RGB connector for the pump, we can connect it here on the side. There's 2 of them, doesn't matter which one we use. So let's just put it here. That way we can reroute the cable back. And then we can just, on the other side, move some of the cables. We want to have all the cables to look very clean. And don't worry about this mess. We're going to organize it a little bit better towards the end. And yeah, so that's how you put everything looking very neat. no cables to the front except for this one over here, which technically we can just toggle on the back a little bit here, but you can barely see it once we have everything on. This is the MSI power supply, the A850GL, and we got this power supply for $120 on Micro Center. So we're about to open it. I'll be showing you all the cables that you're gonna need for this computer build. So let's open it here. And I chose this power supply because it has the 12H power cable, or the special 600-watt cable for the graphics card. And this is the cable that I'm referring to, the 600-watt cable that goes directly from the graphics card to the power supply. Depending on the model that you get, some of them they come with a splitter, so that way you can divide it for the PCIe into two. I think it's 8 and 8, so 16 pin in total, if I'm not mistaken. This is gonna help us to eliminate data splitter cable, and I think this is way better and cleaner as well. We don't need any other PCI cable or anything like that, but we're gonna need the motherboard cable. Essentially, we just need 3 cables for this build: motherboard, CPU, and then the 600-watt for the graphics card. And I selected it 850 watts. There are people that might claim that you only need 750, but to be quite honest, let's not run the risk of not having enough power. And over here, this is fully modular, which means you can only connect the cables necessary if you want to. And this is very straightforward. Just read over here. So this is for SATA. If you want to connect any other peripheral, CPU, and PCIe, the 12 volts 600-watt cable, that's the one that goes here. So we're gonna connect the 600-watt cable over here, and then let's connect the motherboard one, the 24 pin. And then the CPU over here. So I forgot a very small detail, and that's on the power supply. I forgot to connect the other part of the motherboard cable. So just make sure that you connect the 24 pin, and then over here the ATX 24 as well, because these two go combined. And now we're about to install the power supply inside of the computer case. This is a very straightforward process. There's only, I believe, one rule on how to install a power supply inside of a case. This portion over here, this is the fan that is gonna cool off the power supply. And as you can see in the case here, right, there is a ventilation on the bottom. So we want to put that fan facing down. Do not make the mistake of putting the power supply with the fan facing up. Obviously in the direction where it can blow out air outside for proper ventilation. And I know it looks messy. We're gonna clean this really well. And again, the fan facing down. Put it on the back here. And then we're gonna just screw it on the side here, right? So we're gonna align it like this. So for now, I'm gonna just put the screws in place, and we just screw it. And that's how you actually install the power supply. Alrighty, so the next step will be moving the cables to the front and putting all the peripherals necessary, and then we're gonna do a test run. And yeah, let's keep going. Okay, so what cables are we gonna be running to the front? We need the 600 watt for the graphics card. So we are gonna just put it through here for now. SATA cable, power cable, we will need that. We don't have any peripherals at the moment that we need it. Motherboard cable, that's gonna go over here. Let's put it through here. USB 3.0 for the front panel. That's most likely it's gonna go through here. If not, we can just alternate it depending on how far we need to, or how close that connector is. CPU cable, that's gonna go over here on the top. Let's see if we can just make it a little bit closer. So through here. The front panel power button, that's gonna go through here. HD audio, this is for the auxiliary cable on the front panel if we want to use that audio jack, and for the sound card as well. That's gonna go through here. This is where we have the USB. We also have a Type-C, if I'm not mistaken. So this one over here, we're gonna probably route it through here. If not, we can always use another channel or another hole over here. And then we have the fan RGB, ARGB. So that we can do it for later to connect just the RGB portion of it. And also we're gonna be routing some of the fan headers as well. There is one that goes from the two fans over here. They are combined, so we can just simply use one fan header. So let's put everything to the front and then we go from there. And we're gonna turn the case facing to the front to connect all the components. Again, this is gonna be very straightforward. I know that might be a little bit messy here, so let's zoom in a little bit. So let's start with the bigger cables first. So motherboard cable, that's gonna go over here. And like I said, we're gonna be connecting the USB 3.0. Then the USB-C, which is gonna go over here. So as you can see, just to help you guys to find connectors in general, F panel and F panel. So it's very hard to mix. So we're gonna connect that over here and align it with the pins. Alrighty, so we got that already. And now we need the HD audio. So this one over here, it's the AAFP, and it's gonna go over here. And the last one that I'm missing here is the CPU. That's gonna be that connector over there, that cable over there. So it sits right here. Let's make sure that it goes in all the way in. Now let's connect the ARGB, and we're gonna connect the fans to the fan headers in the motherboard. Let's see what we need from here. So let's unravel all of this. Just want to make sure that we do a very clean job over here. We already connected a ARGB, if I'm not mistaken, to the front. So we're gonna daisy chain this one over here. That way we can extend the RGB colors with this ones here. The fan connector, which is gonna connect all these two fans over here, and the one on the side that goes on the back here. And we're gonna trace that on the bottom here, since there is a fan header at the bottom of the motherboard. And here we have the fan connector that I told you guys. There's actually two of them at the bottom. The 3pin ARGB. So make sure that you align it. Do not bend this, because if you break it, technically you won't be able to connect any other ARGB again in that port. And then you can also short the motherboard or break it. Hard to see. Alrighty, so that flushes in properly. So I'm just moving the Type-C. Instead of going through the bottom channel, we're gonna move it a little bit upper. And I believe the same thing for the USB 3.0. Let's make sure we have everything looking better. So I'm gonna move it up. Then through here, I will be just pushing a lot of the cables to the back to make it neater before we install the graphics card. So as you can see, everything looks very neat. So let's prepare the case to install the graphics card. We can actually install it in different slots, doesn't matter which one we select. Let's actually install it on this one over here, just to make sure that we have enough space and that it won't be touching the fan over here. Obviously, I don't think that it will, but I just want to prevent that. So we want to remove this plate over here to install the graphics card. So it's only one screw. And like I said before, we're going to be installing it probably on this one over here. And we're going to remove, I believe, is this second one over here and the third, because this new graphics card, they take a lot of space. So let's remove these two for now. If anything, we just put it back. Okay, so we remove this two from here. And this graphics card, it's really beautiful. And the client got it for $500. Like I said, they saved around $100. It looks pristine over here. I see some fingerprints on the top here, so I'm just gonna clean it a little bit with alcohol on the top, because I want this graphics card to not look any dusty. Obviously there are no dust on this, but I'm just cleaning it on the top over here. And let's put it here for now and show you how to install it. So very straightforward, just like I've been saying for the past 30 minutes, but it's not difficult at all. So just make sure that it aligns, and there's two parts, the smaller part and the bigger part, so it has to match over here. And then once the graphics card goes in, this latch is gonna close and you will hear that click. Okay, so let's put it on the second slot. And so you can see on the top that actually locked. And like I said about fingerprints, there's some fingerprints on the side. We're gonna clean that with alcohol. Just wanna make sure that this graphics card looks clean and pristine for the owner. All right, so that's beautiful. Move it to the side. Again, they're gonna go in the same place where we had them before. And then we are gonna put back this plate and screw it. I will say this one here, you can actually do it by hand. Now, the last piece over here, we're gonna connect the 600 watt cable. Let's make sure that it goes in, flush it in. Looks like that. And then we're gonna be moving the cable to the back. I think the last part that we have to do is just do a test run real quick. We're gonna just plug it in and then we're gonna organize the cables and go from there. Alrighty, so, and this is gonna be the moment of truth. Let's pray, please, to turn on. And we're gonna press the power over here on the power supply, the switch on, and press power. Woohoo! This computer looks just so beautiful. Alrighty, so what are the next steps? We're about to install Windows on this computer, install the drivers, updates, and then run the benchmarks, organize the cables before we do that. So let's make sure we put everything together and then we install Windows and do the rest. Follow along. Here, what we're gonna do is just trace. We're gonna trace a route. That's the perspective that I have when it comes out for organizing cables and cable management in general. So we're gonna move some of these cables here. And again, cable management, there's no perfect way to do it. We try the best that we can to make it organized and clean. Obviously, we're gonna be putting a back panel, so this is gonna hide. But let me know what you guys think. It looks very neat. With that being done, we're about to put the back panel. And then put the screws. Now that we have the computer assembled, we're gonna be installing Windows 11 Pro and the BIOS updates to the motherboard. Just make sure that you grab 2 flash drives, a list of 16 gigs, and if you want to, you can do it in 1 flash drive, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna separate the BIOS update here, which I actually label, and then over here, Windows 11 Pro, just to make sure that I have them separate. And not only that, after I give this computer back to the owner, they can use the flash drive, and if anything goes wrong and they have to reinstall Windows, they can reuse the flash drive again. So let's jump into the computer. And now we're gonna be installing Windows 11 Pro, which is actually, I labeled the flash drive here. We're gonna insert that into the USB port on the computer. And now we're gonna go again into Google and type Windows 11 Creation Tool. And we click on Create Installation Media for Windows. And this is gonna take us to this page over here. And then we select the first one over here that says Download Windows 11 Site. And we go to the portion where it says Windows 11 Installation Media, Download Now. We open a file, use recommended options for this PC. We can actually leave that unmarked if we want to, that's totally okay. Next, use a flash drive. So we select the first option here, USB flash drive, at least 8 gigs. Right now, I don't have the flash drive label, so select that. In progress, so we just have to let it download for about, probably depending on your internet and web connection, so, I mean your internet connection in general, but that might take, for me at least, probably like 10-15 minutes depending. And now we're gonna be pressing F8 on the keyboard. So that's gonna allow us to boot into Windows 11. Or I will say it's gonna allow us to boot into the flash drive. So let's give it a second. Righty. And then we press USB partition 1, let it load. Awesome. Here we're gonna click on Next, our country, just select our country. And for us, it's just English, United States. Input for the keyboard, US. Install Windows. I agree that everything will be deleted. Next. And here we're gonna select, I don't have a product key. When it comes out for a product key for Windows 11, you got so many options. You can buy it online through the Microsoft Store. You can buy a physical media key at a store if you want to. But in my case, I will be buying a key online, probably a OEM key, which is gonna be way cheaper. And right now, I'm gonna say I don't have a key. And we're gonna select Windows 11 Pro in my case. Click Accept. Searching for disk. And here, we're gonna be selecting our storage, our M.2. Just make sure that you select the proper one, because if you have another USB in the computer connected via USB port, you're gonna be removing and wiping out the drive. And it's actually detecting the flash drive that we're using for Windows, but we're not gonna touch that. So we're gonna use disk 0, which is the 1 terabyte NVMe. Next, and it's gonna install Windows 11 Pro and keep nothing, which means it's gonna be a brand new installation. Click on install and let it ride. So letting you know when it comes out for activating Windows, I will be showing you how you can activate it afterwards inside of Windows. And yeah, so let's just let Windows install and catch you once we have everything set up and installed properly. Now that we have Windows 11 installed, we're gonna just do the setup. We're gonna select our country, United States, yes. Keyboard, yes. Not yes, but leave it to US. We're gonna skip the layout And here it's asking us to install our internet. I don't have the drivers. And what we can do, we can connect the Wi-Fi if we want to, or we can use an Ethernet, which is it's just a cable like this. So we're gonna plug it in into our computer, so that way we can just do the setup right now. Click on next, and it's gonna check for updates. So there's 2 setup updates. It looks like 4, but it's only 2. So here, Windows is gonna check for in the setup phase, and there's another set of updates that we're gonna be running internally once we have everything already installed, which is gonna allow us to install all the drivers. Once we get inside Windows, we're gonna install the basic drivers, and then setting up the drivers for the graphics card. And here we set up the name. So it's gonna be Jerry, who's the owner of the computer. And here we're gonna set up the computer for personal use, and it's gonna download and do more updates. And here it's asking us to sign in with a Microsoft account. Here we're gonna skip again, and now, decline, and then next, skip for now. And now we are within Windows. The first thing that we're gonna download that comes automatically with our computer, especially for this motherboard, it's the Armory Crate. So that's gonna allow us to download drivers for the motherboard, such as the Wi-Fi and some other components. So click on yes, and it's gonna download the ASUS Armory Crate. And I use this software to control the fans' RGB colors and for the graphics card as well. So we're gonna let it run. In the meantime, we're gonna search for updates on our Windows computer. And here we're gonna just click on download and install. I know there is a set of drivers that you're gonna see it over here. What I recommend is to, and then you're gonna do it in different ways. So once this whole wave finishes downloading and installing, you're gonna restart the computer and come back and search for updates and keep going until there's no more updates. So now that we have the Armory Crate, and now we're gonna reboot the computer. So that's gonna allow us to install Armory Crate while we have the computer also to restart and install some of the updates and drivers. Okay, now we're gonna be activating Windows, and it's very simple. We just search for activation, go into activation settings, and here we're gonna change the product key, and we enter our product key. Like I said, you can get it from Windows, you can get it from Microsoft if you want to. It's gonna be more expensive, or you can buy it online through eBay or whatever other sources that you want to. Click activate, and now Windows is activated. And now we're gonna download the driver for our graphics card, and we're gonna type NVIDIA RTX 570 drivers. So we're gonna select 570 50 series over here, and then select the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070. And for now, we got a few options, but we're gonna download the latest one. Then we click on open file, click on agree and continue, next. You're gonna click on close, click on next. And here, if we click on drivers, that's also gonna let us check the latest driver available. Obviously, we already have the latest one, so we don't need to check for anything. But later on, if we want to check for updates, we can click on check for updates. I mean, as you can see, there's another version for the NVIDIA app. So we just click on relaunch now again. That's going to be for the NVIDIA app to reopen it. So that's going to update again. Here we click on close, drivers again, and we are up to date. That's all we need. The first game I want to show you is Monster Hunter Wilds. This game, it's incredibly because it demands a lot of GPU power, and I have a monitor which is wide, and it's a 3440 by 1440. So it's like a combination of almost like 2K, 2.5K, just because I have a wide monitor. Obviously, this game is going to run way better once you scale it down to 1080p if you have a 1080p monitor, or even 2K. But for me, in this case, I have a very wide monitor, and it demands more power by using a wide monitor like this. It means that on lower resolution, you're gonna have a better performance. But let me show you how it looks like. Again, these are my settings. I have everything set up with NVIDIA Reflex for lower latency. And I'm not the best in this game. So now we have the benchmark running, and I'm getting a FPS Now let's move to the next game. The second game is going to be Marvel Rivals, and we're going to go into the settings to ultra quality for now. Everything is set up to '80 FPS, which is not bad, especially for playing this game in ultra. This game, most of the time, I recommend to run it, I would say around just like medium settings, because it's very demanding, on ultra settings, on a 2.5K monitor, ultra wide at ultra settings. So let's move on to the next game. I'm gonna finish this game, the next round, and then we're gonna jump into the next one. The next game is going to be Black Myth Wukong. This game consumes a lot of GPU power and it's very intense. We're going to set up our resolution. Let's see if we can leave it just to 75. Let's increase a little bit to 80. I mean, for now, let's just leave it at 75. DLSS, let's leave that on. Everything very high. Cinematic, I think it's like the highest. But let's leave everything on cinematic. Sorry, I mean very high. Full ray tracing. Let's leave it on. Let's do median. And I think this is the first boss that you encounter in the game. So let's see if we can get close. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and take some help. Oof. No. This is the part that, this is why I cannot beat this game. It's incredibly difficult. And I die. But as you can see, 153, depending on the area, but in general, really good for a game that demands a lot of GPU power.
Thank you for watching this video till the end. I hope this video helps you in your next computer journey. But before you go, I want you to be my friend and subscribe. I'll be uploading more videos that I know 100% that you will like. I will be seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.